Hello and welcome to SPE Live. I am Abhijit Anand, People Development and Engagement Manager at Schlumberger, and your host today for the amazing panel discussion titled How to Leverage Your Skillsets to Excel in the Future Energy Industry. This episode of SPE Live is one of the three-part SPE Live series hosted by SPE's Business Management and Leadership Committee. Be it the discussion for climate change or alternate energy resources, the discussion and actions on energy transition has never been larger and broader as it is today. While the major oil and gas companies have already started their own divisions of clean energy businesses, there's a major topic that is concerning one of the major stakeholders in this transition: you, me, us, the workforce of the future energy industry. In this panel today, we have energy industry experts from conventional oil and gas businesses, new energy businesses, and technology company talking about skills and expertise that would make the energy transition possible. As always, as of now, I'm talking from Mumbai, India, and I'd love to know where in the world you are watching from, and please drop your comments in the chat boxes on LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you are watching this live from. With no further ado, we are delighted to bring you today's SPE Live: How to Leverage Your Skill Sets to Excel in the Future Energy Industry. To help me discuss this topic, I'm delighted to introduce three esteemed guests who will be joining me in the virtual studio today. Bringing in first is Anne Davis. Anne serves as Group Chief Operating Officer for Lightsource BP. She leads safety, operations, engineering, procurement, digital, and technology for Lightsource BP's global portfolio. Prior to this role at Lightsource BP, Anne was head of country Georgia for British Petroleum. Previous to that, she worked in a range of international leadership, engineering, and operational roles for British Petroleum. Anne holds a Master's of Physics degree from Oxford University. She's passionate about progress, solving big challenges, encouraging and embracing inclusion and diversity, and keeping active and engaged in the STEM and energy community. Introducing you to our second panelist today is Frederick Matchgood. Fred is currently the Director of Marketing and Strategy for Schlumberger in the Asia Basin. In that role, he oversees the crafting and deployment of Schlumberger's corporate strategy in the Asia region. Over the last 20 years, Fred has gone within Schlumberger through a number of operational, technical, and managerial positions across several countries, including United States, France, Central America, North Africa, Middle East, and Asia. Fred graduated in 1999 with a master's degree in mechanical and aeronautical engineering with honors. Our third panelist today, coming from technology industry, is Bill Barner. Bill works for Google as an enterprise architect. Prior to Google, Mr. Barner worked for Microsoft developing cloud-based solutions for the Texas oil and gas industry. Most of his previous work in upstream is focused on optimizing drilling, completion, and production scenarios with artificial intelligence. He has completed extensive work with remote sensing technologies to quantify greenhouse gas emissions. Mr. Barner holds an MBA from Southern Methodist University and an MS in Predictive Analytics from Northwestern University. He is currently working towards an MS in Geospatial Intelligence at Penn State University. Bringing them all together, I have the pleasure to bring Anne, Fred, and Bill. Thank you, all of you, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Good morning from Texas.
And good afternoon from London.
Good evening from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Wow, we almost covered all of globe. Excellent. So glad to have all of you today. Now, what I also see in the chat box, and I'm so excited to see that the audience coming from already 6 different countries, and they are just growing in numbers. I can assure you that today we'll be answering a lot of the questions that's going in your mind, and it'll be a very interesting discussion today. So, getting into the topic directly, let me get Fred in the conversation. Fred, how do you see current energy professionals positioning themselves for the future of energy industry?
I mean, Abhijit, that's a question that comes, I think, relatively frequently because of concerns that people have with respect to the energy transition. So I think maybe to step back, first, it's fair to say that the COVID pandemic and the hugely growing concerns around the impact of climate change have really accelerated a number of structural changes in the energy industry. So if you look at it, I mean, the urgency to lower carbon footprint has really accelerated in the energy sector in the last year and a half. on the back of the pandemic and on the back of as well awareness by the general population. Alongside with that, the long-term competitiveness of the energy industry depends on a number of things, namely the ability to harness technology, leverage data, and obviously grow human expertise and human capital. So what's important to remember when we are discussing this topic and this the energy transition at large, which is very much debated in the medias, is this is not something that's happening overnight, right? It's a multi-decade journey whereby fossil fuel will remain a significant part of the primary energy mix for decades to come. And in line with the industry's mandate to reduce emissions and mitigate global warming, the decarbonization is a challenge, is a huge challenge, but it's as well a huge opportunity for all of us. And there are technologies and technique that are very much mastered and understood that help decarbonizing the oil and gas space. They're well known, and several of these technologies require skill sets and talent, if you want, that are very adjacent to the expertise that the oil and gas industry has developed over the last few decades. And by this, I'm referring to, for instance, carbon capture and sequestration or geothermal activities. When you look at this type of activities, the skill sets required are very, very close to what the oil and gas operations has been developing. And by this, I'm referring the ability to incubate technology, the ability to understand the subsurface, the ability to manage EPCs, integrate on large scale, digitize. These are all skills and expertise required around carbon capture and storage, but these are expertise that the industry already masters quite well. So there's a lot of adjacency in terms of expertise and skill sets. And as a result, the oil and gas workforce in many ways will be able to upskill or reskill quite fluently, I would say. That's all I'm going to say at this point, Abhijit, for the sake of time, and I can deep dive deeper if you want later on.
Thanks, Fred. But I think you highlighted 2 points very beautifully. One is that the importance of current oil and gas skills and its continued relevance throughout the transition phase and its association from the past as well. And I think second thing, which you also highlighted very well, is that the conventional oil and gas business still remains a major part of the energy mix. And what's evolving is basically the overall energy pie. And this overall change will happen. It's been happening over the decades, will happen over the next over years, and this pie is going to evolve, but the core crux of the skills still remain intact. Very good, Fred. Thank you for that very nice summary. Which now, ponders me, and I'm sure a lot of our audience would be also wondering, how does the new energy business, the new businesses of hydrogen, the CCUS you just termed about, the solar, sees the workforce skills of the Well, as we see, the internet disruptions does happen, and it's a reality that we face every day. So unfortunately, we were not skipped even today. So apologies for everyone who kept us waiting. Thank you that you actually waited for us. So we'll directly jump on where you lost us, and we'll get into the conversation. So we dropped off when we said that how does the new energy business sees the new landscape? And that's where I want to bring Anne into the conversation. And you've worked both in conventional and new energy businesses. So what acquired skills do you see common in both? And what skills do you see as the need of the hour?
Great. No, thank you, Abhijit, and thank you for the invite today for organising this. It really is great to be amongst other energy professionals around the world. I know you're all making a difference and serving a need in wherever you work, and thank you for that and representing the industry in the way you do. I mean, first and foremost, I am an energy enthusiast, and when we talk about skills, I think skills are acquired through work and skills are acquired through passion, and I'm someone who's always been fascinated by the physics of energy in all its forms and how energy then is intertwined with the fabric of geopolitics and the needs of society. And these needs we're acutely aware, as Fred detailed earlier. And also, like many of you, I get excited about turning potential energy into useful energy, reliable energy, responsibly sourced energy in a very, very demanding world. And we need skilled people to do this effectively and safely. And when I look back at my career, whether I've been developing oil fields in the Caspian or North America gas projects or solar projects in Europe, there are key skills I see across the teams which are very common. These skills in risk management, project management, technical design, engineering excellence, lean operations, oversight of safe and reliable operations, digital skills that unlock AI or predictive maintenance. These are common across the sector. The only difference is how you might apply them to that particular area. And as we know in energy, we work with Mother Nature, whether we're working with the rocks in the subsurface, we're working with sunlight, we're working with wind. We know how to apply ourselves. We know how to deal with Mother Nature. And I think I think energy is an exciting place to be, and I don't think it's ever been more exciting. And just a shout out for renewables alone. I mean, the growth in renewables is unprecedented. Even in 2020, the year of the pandemic, renewables grew by 9.7%. Solar grew by 20%, adding 127 gigawatts of capacity to the world. Wind grew by 111 gigawatts. That's almost double any other annual increase in history on record. And with that comes jobs. So I think back in 2019, there were around 11 million people employed in renewables globally. We expect that to quadruple by 2050 to around 40 million. That's huge. And that's not including all the other sectors which will start to boom, like hydrogen, EVs, storage, all these other sectors on the back of renewables. So I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be in energy, and I think there's plenty of opportunity for people to apply their skills, whether it's in oil and gas or renewable energy or other forms of energy that will also grow in the future.
That's amazing, and the numbers that you pulled in, I was just working in my head. I was so amazed with the quantum that we have achieved in the last few years. And I really like the perspective, how you molded in terms of what the future looks like for the workforce. And there is no doubt that the future workforce will need to skill up, and we need to be prepared to reach the targets that we are looking at in 2050, 2052. So it's really, really bright. Thank you for that introduction. Now, having understood both the conventional and new energy businesses overview on skills, I'm sure that you're getting curious, what is the role of technology companies in this transition? And like me, I'm sure you are aware of that as well, that almost all the tech giants, including Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, have been developing technologies that can boost cloud technology, AI, and ML in the energy industry. Been doing it for the last couple of years, and it's really expediting at a very fast pace. So heading towards that direction, I would like to bring in Bill into the conversation. Bill, from technology point of view, what professional skills would you recommend for our people in the industry to upskill?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Abhijit, and for the Society of Petroleum Engineers for including me in today's panel discussion. The oil and gas industry is under intense pressure to report on greenhouse gas emissions and to show progress towards net zero goals. Not only do companies need to report on direct and indirect emissions from operations, they also need to report on their supply chain. The data for this reporting is often contained in silos across different parts of the business and with suppliers. Cloud-based tools will make it easier to address this problem, but there is a significant skills gap. Companies will need IT personnel with deep skills in Google GCP, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon AWS. Data engineers will be needed to process data and to build pipelines to hydrate data lakes and to feed data warehouses. Database architects will need to design a reliable, secure, scalable to handle reporting, systems to handle reporting. Blockchain may play a role in supply chain reporting. There will also be increased demand for experts in remote sensing and GIS systems to monitor operations for natural gas leaks and to validate process emissions. Sensor data will need to be married to asset and production to determine the root cause of emissions. Cloud-based AI will play a critical role in anomaly detection and mapping emissions to assets. Companies are going to need to make some difficult decisions. There are always funding limitations. How do companies decide which emissions problems to tackle first? Should they focus on eliminating flaring? Should they hunt down and eliminate leaks? Should older assets be replaced with newer, less emitting equipment? Answers to these questions require accurate reporting and optimization algorithms to handle constraint-based modeling problems. This is another great workload for the cloud. In summary, companies will need to invest heavily in the cloud, data, and in AI skills to meet reporting for net zero goals.
Fantastic, Bill. I mean, when you were talking about different optimization and the equipment, honestly, and the technologies you mentioned, I was taking mind notes in my head. Thank you for bringing that up. As of now, I'm already very much interested and more curious about the different optimization and automation of the machines you said, and how data analytics will play a very, very critical role in future. With no doubt that I have that tech giants like Google will play an unprecedented role to realize net zero goals for the energy industry. Now, having understood that, and there's something that's been happening over the last couple of years, and I'm sure you would have observed as well, is that, and also seeing the population where we have a lot of student members who have joined us across YouTube and LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us. This brings me to a question that has often been asked to me, and I request any one of you to take it. The question is, how the students of today be better prepared for the evolving energy mix in the industry?
So who wants to volunteer? You want to volunteer, Anne?
Yeah, and I'd be happy to volunteer. And the reason I'm volunteering is I love being connected with students, and I love to hear what's on your mind. So yeah, if you any specific questions, please bring them in on the chat. So my advice to any student now, anyone, especially grounding in technical skills, and you look at the world and look at the challenges of the world, it's almost quite overwhelming, and there's a lot of information out there. And since I was at university, the internet has boomed, and the wealth of information and breadth of information is huge. So I mean, number one is, keep curious. Curiosity is something we have naturally as a child. My 9-year-old bugs me with questions all the time, and as adults it gets beaten out of us. But keep that curiosity alive through your studies, and then through your exploration of the world of work. Do your research. Really understand how you would like to apply your skills that you inherit through your degree. Are you someone who gets excited about researching the next big disruptor in energy or in digital? Is that where you'd like to go? Or are you more interested in implementing what we've already got and scaling up perhaps renewable energy? Or perhaps you're interested in how we can decarbonize the oil and gas sector, or carbon capture, as Fred mentioned earlier. So there's so much options now. But I think when you think about energy broadly, the customer is your world, the stakeholder is your world. There's no other sector quite like it. And I think we are going to need some of the best scientists, the best engineers, the best economists, the best business people to help us meet the demands of the world for energy, which is ever increasing, and decarbonize and get to net zero. Because we don't have another choice. We only have one planet, and the human race is on this planet right now. So I would encourage any student who's thinking about energy to really think carefully, do your research, but really think what gets you up in the morning, what fires up your purpose, and how do you want to apply this skill set to helping us solve these problems and challenges that we have ahead of us.
That's fantastic, and there's something which relates to whenever I talk to students, I bring in as well. So adding on to your comment is that if you're majoring in petroleum, if you're majoring in geophysics, if you're majoring in geology, this is the time to sub-major on a topic which relates to technology or which relates to new energy segments. And this is the time to diversify. University is the best time to learn as much as you can and then apply in the real world. That's beautifully crafted. Thank you, Anne. I saw Fred, you wanted to add something. You want to go next on this?
Yeah, no, I can go next. Actually, I think Anne had a very good and very inclusive summary. But I mean, what I would say, is at the end, I mean, whether you're a student in a university or you're actually a lot more senior working in a company or in the industry or actually outside of the energy industry, it's a continuous learning journey. That willingness to learn, that curiosity that Anne mentioned, I think is quite critical. I would call it maybe as well a mindset. We have to be willing to challenge ourselves. We have to be willing to learn new things. We have to have the passion to expand our horizons. And sometimes when you work in a company or in a sector, you need to obviously have maybe possibly a corporate framework to help you accelerate that learning curve. But surely that passion and that willingness is key. Anne mentioned the digital aspect. I think it's something that's increasingly becoming important. We see really digitalization. I mean, let's be honest. If you look at the sectors out there, the energy sector was not the leader in digitization. You look at it 10 years ago, it was quite, I would say, quite basic, the level of digitization we had. Yet the industry is catching up very quickly. And we see the likes of the Google, the Microsoft, and so on, really making a difference in creating that infrastructure and that ecosystem. And the companies themselves inside the energy sector have pretty much all understood that digitization is not a nice to have. It is a must and an enabler in many directions. An enabler to drive efficiency, operational efficiency. It's an enabler to drive or to scale up. And it's an enabler now that we're talking of decarbonization and how we're going to lower the carbon intensity and the carbon footprint of the energy sector. There's no doubt that digitalization at scale, be it in the form of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or simply having the right data at the right moment and at the right place, is making a difference. We see it. I mean, there are thousands of success stories that we could build on, but I think this is really one of the cornerstone that the industry is going through. And as a population involved in the energy sector, I think or digital convergency, if I may call it that way, definitely is becoming an important weapon in our arsenal, if I may say. And becoming digitally savvy is becoming increasingly important. I think it's something that the audience needs to really invest efforts in. I mean, it's when I see the pace at which the industry is digitizing and how quickly things are changing, within years it would be actually a very different landscape. So that would be my advice, Abhijit.
Thanks a lot, Fred. Digital savvy is the word that I take away, and I'm sure audience is writing that word on. Now, I'll invite Bill as well to add your comments. What do you think or advice you have for the students?
Sure. If I were back at the university today, I'd be focusing on courses in big data, data engineering, and artificial intelligence. Big data, the amount of data that's out there right now is absolutely stunning. It's all in different silos. There's a tremendous amount of value to be gleaned from it. Most companies are really struggling to find people that understand this well enough. Believe it or not, when you work in artificial intelligence, 80% of your work is actually preparing the data. When I'm doing projects, I have plenty of data scientists that are experts in linear regression or deep neural networks, but we're really short on people that can do the data engineering to prepare the data for the data scientists. One other piece of advice, there are 3 major clouds right now. You've got GCP from Google, you've got AWS from Amazon, and you've got Azure from Microsoft. Your large oil and gas companies tend to use all 3, tend to follow a multi-cloud strategy. So my advice would not to be to lock into a single one of these cloud providers, and I'd also pursue certifications. That is really a good way to differentiate yourself from the other job applicants in the job market.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks, Bill. And I think, the next question actually relates to what you just answered about the 3 cloud technologies. And I'd like to know if you would like to add more. There's a very nice question coming up from audience. Question is, what cloud technology applications do you see coming to fruition to support carbon emission reductions in the nearer term?
Okay, well, from the data point of view, if you wanted a job today, I'd focus on the data warehousing technologies. In the Google space, that would be BigQuery. On Amazon, it would be Redshift. On the Microsoft platform, it would be Synapse Analytics. These companies, oil and gas companies, have tremendous amounts of data. It's all in different silos, and they can't get at it. And we're also looking at different types of data structures. So there's basically a lot of job security and a lot of demand for people that have the ability to bring the data in from these individual silos, stage them in a data warehouse, and then use visualization tools to get some value from the data. So that would be number one. Also, too, if you have an interest in GIS systems, geospatial intelligence is another great place to make an investment. There's a lot of opportunity on remote sensors, whether they be from IoT, optical gas imaging cameras, which are handheld, data from drones, aircraft, and satellites. All these technologies are needed to monitor oil field operations. And that data needs to be processed through IoT into the cloud and the analytics applied. So that's another area where there's a great deal of demand.
Fantastic. I think you answered Ellie's question right to the point. Thanks a lot, Bill. Now, we are nearing the time of SPE Live closure as of now. Unfortunately, we'll have to close the Q&A as of now. I'm sure that you have a lot of questions in there and you would want it to continue. For respecting the time, we'll have to close. So many thanks, Anne, Fred, and Bill, for sharing your thoughts and perspectives with us today on SPE Live. But before we close it, I will actually invite all of our esteemed panelists, to give closing comments to our industry's workforce. But the way we'll do it is by giving that you will all have an option to give one word that you will leave the audience of today with. So I'd like you to close in a word that you would want the audience to take away from this SPE Live.
Excited.
Future
Curious.
workforce is excited. Okay.
Curious.
Future is curious.
Cloud.
Future is cloud. Bill, I can see you have been talking a lot about cloud, and I'm sure a lot of students are taking notes, and the professionals are really excited for that. So excited, curious, and deep diving on digital savvy and learning cloud. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. It's been so much of fun and learning in this discussion today. And I have made several notes, as I said, when I concluded with those three words that I'm taking with myself as well. Thank you, everyone, all the audience today, from joining from different countries, different parts of the world today. I'm sure that many of your questions that have been answered and some that you haven't, please put it in the comment box and we'll request our panelists to even answer them after the chat if we could. With this, I would like to thank SPE, Business Management and Leadership Committee, to host this amazing panel discussion. BML Committee is leading several amazing knowledge sharing initiatives within the energy industry and is committed to grow leadership, business management skills among the members of SPE. In the meantime, I encourage everyone to keep following the SPE Live series and keep up to date with up-and-coming conversations via the SPE website and the SPE LinkedIn page. We look forward to seeing you again. This is Abhijit Anand signing off with Bill, Anne, and Fred from SPE Live. Good night, good evening, good day to you all. Keep rocking, stay blessed.